At 7:01 p.m., all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice at all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence or a silent prayer as your conscience finds appropriate. Thank you. Please be seated. Members of the council, you have an agenda before you, or any changes required to the agenda. Hearing none, there is a new item in celebration, as part of celebration of Ethics Awareness Month, which has been added to the agenda, which is to ask all members of the council whether you have any conflicts of interest for any on agenda items on the agenda this evening. I have none. I will presume from silence that no one else has any conflicts of interest either. So, given no changes and no stated conflicts of interest, may I please have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember Lingua. Is there any discussion of the agenda? Are there any public comments? I will next do a roll call vote, and this will help to establish quorum as well. Councilmember Dixon, is Councilmember Dixon present?
Doesn't appear so, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Foe?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Henry? Councilmember Henry, are you there? Do you approve of the agenda? You appear to be on mute, Councilmember Henry. Can you hit *6 to unmute?
I'm sorry, Mayor, I'm sorry. I had my microphone muted. I vote aye.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Mayers?
Aye.
Thank you. I abstain. The motion passes 4-0-1. And note that neither Councilmember Dixon nor Councilmember Richardson are present at this time. Next item on the agenda are proclamations. And the proclamations are in recognition of Ethics Awareness Month. So let me just dive in. I will do English first this month. Proclamation 2021 Ethics Awareness Month. Whereas elected and appointed officials and public employees recognize that their chosen profession is built upon the public's trust. And whereas elected and appointed officials and public employees may earn the trust of their communities by adhering to high standards of ethical and moral conduct. And whereas the town of Riverdale Park has established an ethics commission and provided guidance to elected and appointed officials and employees through the adoption of Chapter 32 Ethics. And whereas the town of Riverdale Park recognizes the International City-County Management Association's Code of Ethics as the standard for proper public administration and has distributed copies of this Code of Ethics to all elected and appointed officials and employees of the town. And whereas an awareness of ethical standards and programs helps to promote a strong public image and maintain a moral course. And whereas the International City County Management Association, the National League of Cities, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and numerous other national and state municipal management associations encourage their members to strengthen and abide by certain ethical standards, therefore be it resolved that the Town of Riverdale Park Mayor and Council do hereby proclaim March 2021 as Ethics Awareness Month in Riverdale Park and call upon the elected and appointed officials, public employees, residents, government agencies, and all other individuals and institutions in the town or who conduct business in the town to recognize the importance of ethical conduct in our community and to commit to increasing awareness and understanding of the ethical principles that should guide our professional and personal interactions with one another. And now in Spanish, Proclamación, Mes de Concienciación Ética 2021. Por cuanto los funcionarios y empleados públicos elegidos y designados reconocen que su profesión elegida se basa en la confianza del público. Y por cuanto los funcionarios y empleados públicos elegidos y designados pueden ganarse la confianza de sus comunidades al adherirse a altos estándares de conducta ética y moral, y considerando que el pueblo de Riverdale Park ha establecido una comisión de ética y ha brindado orientación a funcionarios y empleados electos y designados mediante la adopción del capítulo 32, ética, y considerando que el pueblo de Riverdale Park reconoce el Código de Ética de la Asociación Internacional de Administración de Ciudad Condada como el estándar para la administración pública apropiada y ha distribuido copias de este Código de Ética a todos los funcionarios electos y designados y empleados del pueblo, y considerando que la conciencia de los estándares y programas éticos te ayuda a promover una imagen pública fuerte y mantener un curso moral, por cuanto la Asociación Internacional de Administración de Ciudades Condadas, la Liga Nacional de Ciudades, la Conferencia de Alcaldes de Estados Unidos y muchas otras asociaciones de administración municipal, nacionales y estatales alientan a sus miembros a fortalecer y atenerse a ciertos estándares éticos. Por lo tanto, se resuelve que el alcalde y el consejo de la ciudad de Riverdale Park proclamarán marzo de 2021 como el mes de concientización de ética en Riverdale Park y convocan a los funcionarios elegidos y designados, empleados públicos, residentes, agencias gubernamentales y todas las demás personas e instituciones en la ciudad o quienes realizan negocios en la ciudad para reconocer la importancia de la conducta ética en nuestra comunidad y comprometerse a aumentar la conciencia y la comprensión de los principios éticos que deben guiar nuestras interacciones profesionales y personales entre nosotros. Thank you very much. Very pleased to be able to read that each and every year and to celebrate ethical behavior. The next presentation on the agenda is the fiscal year 2022 budget development, expenditures, current year estimated actuals, and fiscal year 2022 challenges and opportunities revisited.
So good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Gentry Jones is unable to be with us this evening. So Mr. Smith is going to fill in for him and cover the estimated actuals for this year, which is an important building block as we work towards a proposed balanced budget. And then I will talk about some challenges and focus really in on one challenge. And we'll go from there. Mr. Smith, if you will, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We wanted to take this opportunity with about 4 months left in the fiscal year. We wanted to review the difference between the budgeted amount, the actual amount, and the projected estimated actuals for FY 2021. On the summary sheet here, we also have a detail sheet, but on the summary sheet, as you can see, we have the total budget for 2021 was $7,251,000. so far, we've spent $4,237,000. And our estimated actual where we think we will land will be $7,332,000. As you may see, we are estimating that we will go over budget, and that's because of the contractual services. Because we have been bringing in more money on the speed cameras, we will be spending more money on the speed cameras. So we wanted to reflect that here, and we may have to come back and ask for an adjustment on the budget for this year, depending on where we will land in June. So we just wanted to bring that to your attention. The salary and wages, we budgeted $3,585,000. We've actually spent $2,285,000. Our estimated actual would come in, we estimate that we will come in at the budgeted amount at $355,000. On employee benefits, we have $1,638,000 that we budgeted. So far, we've spent $795,000. And we estimate that we will come in close to that, the amount that we actually budgeted. On overtime, we budgeted $1,115,000. The actual expense so far has been $74,000. And we are estimating that we will spend that $115,000. And we left that number the same because it all depends on weather events and how many more we will have. On contractual services, we budgeted $802,000. We've actually spent $575,000. And we're estimating $1 million and two. And so we're doing that because, again, the speed camera. On operating expenses, we've spent $931,000. And that was the budget at $931,000. Actual expenditures is $440,000. And we're estimated actuals at $899,000. On other expenses, we have $177,000 that we budgeted. On the actual expenses, we've spent so far $66,000, and we're estimating that we will spend $117,000. If you could bring up the detailed amounts. And I'm not going to go through each one, but I think the most important one is, Ryan, if you can go down to the contractual services. Yeah, right there on that page.
Yeah, you went past it?
Go up a little more. There you go. As you can see so far with the
Right in the center.
you see it, John?
Yes, so
Okay.
it's 5319. So it's right in the center of the page, Opt to Traffic,
Yep.
Safe Speed for Students program.
Yep, we budgeted $220,000 for that. We've actually spent $224,000, but we also have to keep in mind that we're 2 months behind on those numbers, plus the 4 months that we have coming. So we're about 6 months behind on that. We anticipate that the expenses will come in around our $419,000. So we increased that number because we're bringing in more money. So we're spending more money there. So we wanted to focus in on that one because that may cause us to have a budget adjustment.
Mr. Smith, that's just the revenue split that we have off of the tickets. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The revenue will be much higher and the expenses will be higher also.
Understood.
So go ahead, Paul, I'm sorry.
No, I think for the most part, I will end there and go back to John.
The only other thing I was going to add, last week when Gentry went over the revenue, we adjusted the revenue on speed cameras up to $975,000. And we're using a simple ratio. So it's about 43% all in when we figure all expenses of the program. So Mr. Mayor, last week you asked whether or not there would be a concern with the increased revenue if we would have to shift money to the state. And it does not appear to be, that doesn't appear to be the case based upon these numbers.
Thank you.
And with that, we take any questions. Ryan, can you go back to the summary so everyone can see the summary?
Members of the council, do you have any questions? I will note for the record that Councilmember Dixon has arrived.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I do have questions.
Please.
Thank you. So what I hear from our budget is that, you know, we have shortfalls here, we have a little windfall here, shortfalls here, a little windfall here. TM, are we breaking even? I mean, are we just barely paying our bills? Are we? How is the town progressing with this? When I hear this type of financial report, it concerns me because I'm not getting a full clarity on the picture as far as where, or my understanding, let me just say that, for my understanding, you know, where we really are in terms of our budget, because I'm hearing we have a plus here and a minus here and a zero out here. And so I'm kind of confused as far as, you know, where we really are within our budget. Can you please shed some clarity on that? Thank you. Over.
Yes, sir. So last week, when Mr. Jones went over the revenue, we have projected revenue of this year at $8,251,000. And we have budgeted expenditures of $7,251,000. We have projected expenditures about 83,000 more than that, because we have, when we bring in more money from the speed camera program, the Safe Speed for Students program, the expenditures then rise. These are all just projections. So we are very close to staying within our budget on expenditures, and we are outperforming on the revenue. Now, these are projections, but year to date, we've brought in $7,166,000 and some change. So we're 7 months in, and we've brought in enough revenue to basically cover the vast majority of our expenditures for the year. Now, that's operating expenditures. We still need to bring in money to pay for new vehicles and things of that nature. So where we stand today, sir, we're actually doing quite well in terms of everything that's going on. The town is doing quite well. And Mr. Smith, I'd ask you your opinion on that assessment.
We are doing quite well. Actually, we're probably looking at, I want to say, anywhere from $800,000 to $1 million surplus next year, after, of course, other expenses, but somewhere along in there.
And that depends on how accurate our projections are. And I will say that this year, it's hard to get clarity. Mr. Smith and I have been doing this a long time, and there's just so many uncertainties. We are being conservative. So when we're looking at these estimated expenditures, I don't expect them to go any higher than that. So when we come up with projections on expenditures, we deliberately go high. When we come up with expenditures on revenue, we deliberately go low. And that should help keep the town in a really good position. Does that answer your question, Councilmember Henry?
It paints a broad brush on the question. It certainly does. Mr. Mayor, if I may expand upon my question.
Please do.
Thank you. So TM, I'm concerned that I hear language regarding revenue on speeding cameras within our town, and I'm hoping that I am I am interpreting the language as being incorrect as far as it being a part of our budgetary projectment for improvements, and I'm hoping that that the language as far as the projection for speeding cameras is used in the right in the right format, in the right policy, where it enforces safety for our community, but it's not used towards enhancing our budget portfolio for future investments or for future capital investments. Can you please speak to that? Over.
Yes, sir. First and foremost, everything with the Safe Speed for Student program is simply about safety. It aligns with the town's vision and commitment for our neighborhoods, as well as the Walk, Bike, Drive Safety Initiative that was started in January of 2019. And so everything is focused on safety. Unfortunately, sir, we have more people speeding in town with less cars on the road. So there's less cars on the road, less congestion, people are driving faster. We have consistently, I can say for the last 4 years, we have consistently reduced the town's reliance on any revenue related to any sort of fines. And for example, sir, we budgeted, because we have to account for the money, we budgeted in the low 500s on this program. We believe that we will bring in over 900,000 on the program, but we're not going to count on that in any year. So as we are working towards next year's budget, we're going to come back with a number that's relatively low over performance of the current year. So we are not relying on the funds. We're not growing the budget because of this. The other thing I will say, that any money that is used from this program for capital expenditures or capital expenditures related to the police, everything is guided by Maryland state law in terms of the expenditures, and all expenditures have to be related to this program and police in general.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your answer, TM. Mr. Mayor, thank you for your indulgence. Thank you. Are you?
Thank you. Are there any other questions on the fiscal year 22 budget development report? I will note that I believe also during the reading of the proclamations that Councilmember Richardson arrived. So we have a full house now, all members of the council.
So, Mr. Mayor, with your permission, I'll go into the next aspect of this presentation.
Please do.
So a few months, seems like 6 months ago, but it's probably more about 7-8 weeks ago, we talked to the mayor and council about challenges and opportunities. And so the real challenge that we have putting this proposed budget together is clarity on economic conditions and forecasting out 16 months from now, where are we going to be? And so we're maintaining our conservative approach there. And I think that's really important. And it has guided us well so far. And that's the approach that the staff team continues to take. The one challenge that we're going to have as we formulate this draft budget relates to the defined benefit plan, which is a retirement plan that the town has. And about 2/3, maybe a little bit more than 2/3 of our employees participate in that plan, the defined benefit plan. And this is the plan that the mayor and council approved some structural changes to in the spring of 2020. And the Board of Trustees proposed those changes to make the plan more sustainable long-term. And long-term, those changes will help in terms of this long-term sustainability of the plan. The town currently contributes 18.1% of an employee's salary to that plan. And every 2 years, the town's contracted actuarial firm reviews the defined benefit plan. And they look at inflows and outflows, how much money is flowing in from the investments, how much money is flowing in from the town's contribution, how much money is flowing in from the employee's contribution, and then how much is flowing out to pay benefits, whether that be regular retirement, disability retirement, lump sum withdrawals if someone leaves. So you have the inflows and outflows, they examine those things, and then they look at our census. They look at the plan participants and they project out based upon age, based upon salaries, projected benefit at normal retirement age. And they say, okay, based upon these things and what we can expect as a rate of return, how much do we need the employer to contribute each year for the next 2 years as a percent of salary? And what we heard from Bolton and Mr. Jones, Mr. Smith, and myself, we've met with Bolton, the actuarial firm. We've met with PNC. We got everyone on the same Zoom call to meet together. And what we are hearing clearly is that as a percent of participant payroll, we're looking at a 2.6% increase, or I'm sorry, 2.5% increase for the next 2 fiscal years. And that's really considerable. In real dollars, you're talking about an $82,000 increase beginning July 1 over what we are paying currently in this fiscal year. So that's a very significant increase. The Board of Trustees for the plan, we met just a few days ago, and we reviewed this information. So tonight I'm not here as the chair of that board, just wearing my town manager hat and reviewing the numbers for next year with Mr. Jones and Mr. Smith. And I shared this with the board and the participants who were on the call. It is my opinion, and I think I can speak for Mr. Jones and Smith, it's their opinion as well, that we are going to need, in order to balance the budget for this upcoming year, we're going to need to have an increase in the employee contribution. I don't know what percent we're going to propose, but we did learn from one of the members of the board, who's a long-term employee, 20-year plus employee, who said that in his time, the employee contribution has not increased. So we have not increased the contribution during that employee's time. So I bring this here tonight, and Councilmember Lingua sits on the Board of Trustees. We talked through it the other night. He may have more to say on this, or the other day, he may have more to say on this evening. But I just bring it up as an awareness issue. And it's something that from my position, I think we need to find balance. And in finding that balance, I sincerely believe, even though it's a little over 4 weeks before I submit to you a proposed budget, I don't see a way of doing that without having some sort of an employee contribution increase. If the mayor and council, once we have those numbers, if you concur with that, we would have to amend the plan. So there would be a plan amendment. And we've talked with the plan attorney about what the mechanics of that would be. So with that, I'll take any questions on what has turned out to be a significant challenge for us as we put the budget together for next year.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Are there questions from the council?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Please go ahead, Mr. Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Regarding what the town manager brought up about the meeting last week, I think it's important for us as a town to address these issues regarding the defined benefits plan, the long-term and the post-employment benefits, and what we will, the town's obligation to the employees once they retire. I think it's better for us to try and address this now in terms of town money's contributions, also looking at what the employees put in as well, try and find a way that it's fair and equitable to do it. Otherwise, we're going to be running a very likely risk of saddling future generations who will serve on this body and residents who will live in this town with a very top-heavy, for lack of a better term. Granted, I do not have a crystal ball, but what the indications seem to be, if trends continue, there'll be a fair amount that the town will need to be contributing in current dollars towards these post-employment benefits. So I think it's something we started this a couple of years ago in terms of addressing this and making slightly larger contributions in, and I think that's something that's going to need to continue into the future for a number of years. How many? Not too sure. It really depends on fund performances, as well as what we as a council come up with in working with the board as well, in terms of determining what the new employee percentage of salary that employees will be contributing to these to the long-term fund, the post-employment benefit.
Thank you, council member. Are there other council questions or comments?
Mayor, if I may.
Please speak, Councilman.
Thank you. So let me state this. Riverdale Park is a gem. It's a beautiful place to live within. And we are nickeling and diming ourselves to try to have a budget from year in and year out. And folks, it's not going to work, because you're trying to get 50 cents out of $3, and it just doesn't stretch to fit the budget, because cost for doing business goes up, it doesn't go down. Taxes doesn't go down, it goes up. And in this town that we all have so much pride for, and we want to do the best, and we do the best for our town, I got to tell you that the only way that we are going to raise the standards of living in our community in Riverdale Park is to raise costs, to what it costs to do business, to what it costs to have apartments, to what it costs to have licenses in this town, to what it costs for police officers, for what it costs for services, public work services. This is what it's going to take. We have to raise the board, regardless of what the other municipalities are doing. We don't have to follow their trend. We're pace leaders, right? We set the pace. We don't have to follow someone else's lead. We need to raise the board of expectation. You're asking a town manager to do miracles with a budget that's menial. It's a menial budget. You can't get, I mean, come on, tulips up. Come on, it's just not going to work. We have to raise everything. All of our services has to be raised up in order for all of us to be picked up in this town. Otherwise, we're just back to square one, year after year after year. We've got to lift up our budget. Our financial deficits are in the hole where we're just penny pinching along the way. You're acting like if we're in a, and I say you're, I said we are acting like if we're in a poorhouse somewhere. We've got to lift up our town. We got to rise above the bowl and do what's great for our town. So that's where I'm coming from. Cost of living has gone up. You pay more for water than you pay for gasoline. Come on, it's just not. It doesn't wash. You can't scream at the town manager and or the financial budget and everybody else's salary is going up. The mayor's salary hasn't gone up in the last, I don't know, was it 6 years? Hasn't gone up. Council salary hasn't gone up. We haven't seen a raise, $5 of a raise. We haven't seen any of that. Let's face it. You got to lift yourself up out of this deficit that we're facing every single year. We talk about money. We got to lift ourselves out of this. So the only way to do it, in my mind, is to raise costs across the board in every aspect of things. You want to see better policing, you got to raise the cost. You want to see better DPW work, you got to raise the cost. You want to see better administrative, you got to raise the cost. You want to see whatever you want to see in this town, we got to raise the cost. And so, Mr. Mayor, that's what we got to do in this town, because this is a beautiful town. Houses prices gone up, come down. Why? Because, we got stinky neighbors that don't want to do the right thing in the community. We got to weed them out. We have got to set the precedence in this community. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Henry.
Mayor Thompson,
Yes,
how you
Please
doing
speak.
this evening? This is Councilman Richardson. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Glad to hear your voice.
I agree with Councilman Henry. We do have to set the bar high because, like I said, me and you had a conversation. You haven't even had a raise. We have to set the bar high because everything is high. Believe me. And I totally agree with him. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, council member. Any other council comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Councilman Lingua, please speak.
I just want to make sure I was clear on hearing what my colleague from Ward 4 was saying when he's bringing up the concept of raising the cost. And I was wondering if what he is referring to is increasing the commitment residents make to the town in the form of taxes paid.
Councilman Henry, would you care to answer Councilman Lingua's question directly?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, CM Lingua, for the question. I really appreciate that. We've been longstanding on this committee together. And listen, we all have to pay. It's not just the residents of this community. We all have to pay in this community. We all have to do our fair share of equity in this community. I do it, you do it, the mayor do it, all the other council members do it. Everyone that's in our community needs to be a part of our community, to aid, to lift up our community. That's where I'm going. Everybody has an equal share, not just lopsided for us or for you or for me, but everybody that lives and breathes and cohabitates in this community needs to be a part of this community by lifting up this community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to respond. Yield.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there additional council questions or comments on this report? Are there public comments on this report? Okay, sounds like we may have an interesting budget process this year. Let's move along on the agenda. Next item on the agenda is the mayor's report, and I will actually start it out with the legally mandated reports on recent closed meetings. This is required by state law that I reveal that the council has met in closed session. And within that report, the reasons for meeting and what decisions were made. I'll start with a closed meeting on the 15th of February, started at 7:39 p.m. In attendance were myself, Councilmembers Dixon, Foe, Lingua, Richardson, and Mayers. Town Manager Listician was also in attendance. The reason for closing the session was to discuss, I'll skip over the details of this, but it was to discuss the performance evaluation of the town manager, which is statutory option 3-305B1. There are several other employee related items in that, but the reason for the meeting was to discuss the town manager's performance appraisal for the last year. And we discussed the report, including the content, format, methodologies, conclusions, corrections, and changes that needed to be made to the draft report, and determined a method to complete the report. The recorded vote taken was a motion to direct myself, the mayor, to finalize the draft presented to the council and the town manager at that meeting. And I was to complete that draft no later than today. And I delivered the draft via email to the town manager late last night. So that was closed meeting number 1. Closed meeting number 2, if I can only find my cursor to flip over to that cursor, was on the 24th of February, starting at 7:30 p.m. In attendance were myself and council members Dixon, Foe, Lingua, Henry, and Mayers. Also in attendance were town manager Listician, town clerk and director of administration Barnes, who left quickly after the meeting was set up, the town attorney Fred Sussman, and the director of public projects and services Ivy Lewis. And the topic, the statutory authority to close the session, was general provisions of Article 3-305B7, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice on a legal matter, and 8, to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. And the topic discussed was a contract in which the town is part of, and the best legal strategy for potentially terminating that contract and negotiating with the contractor to come to a conclusion. And there were no recorded votes taken, except there was a motion to adjourn, in which was approved by all members in attendance. The third and last closed meeting, that was on the 24th, excuse me, I got these out of order. And this is not showing the filled out version. Please give me just a moment. My apologies. I opened these up just before the meeting. Thank you for your patience. The closed meeting on the 22nd was, let me find the, was section 3-305B to consider a matter that concerns a proposal for a business or industrial organization to locate, expand, or remain in the town. This was to consider a development proposal and to discuss negotiating strategies with the potential developer. And I'm sorry, I don't have the filled out form, so I cannot provide the persons in attendance. There were no concluding, no recorded votes during that meeting. So those are the three closed meeting reports that are required. I will provide details for the 22nd after I find the filled out form. Oh, excuse me. Thank you. That was the reason why there was not actually a reminded by the town manager. There was actually not a quorum that evening, and so we didn't have a closed meeting officially. That's why I didn't fill out the form. We just had a meeting of a sub quorum of the council to discuss the items that I brought up. Okay, moving on the mayor's report, I will touch on what's going on in the COVID-19 world. Cases, there's a lot of good news there. Cases are dropping quickly, hospitalizations are dropping quickly, even deaths, which are a lagging indicator, they tend to be a few weeks behind, are dropping quickly. Nationwide, I heard the statistic over the weekend that deaths among those over the age of 75, i.e. those who are have been receiving the vaccine, are dropping by an average of 10% per day, so about in half every week, and have been for the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. And so the vaccines do seem to be having a good effect, and people seem to be following the CDC guidelines because as I said, the infection rate amongst all age ranges is dropping nicely, and that's very good news. The not so good news is that there are new variants that are more infectious that may turn this around in the near future. In my town crier report, I brought up two variants that were in the state of California and were of concern. I'm no longer as concerned about those, having stayed on top of the news about them, but there is a variant in New York that looks a little bit worrisome. And they're the three that have been identified as variants of concern already, the so-called UK, South Africa, and Brazilian variants. Those are more infectious and potentially more lethal than the others. So I have to encourage everyone to continue practicing the non-pharmaceutical interventions and as quickly as possible to get the vaccine as soon as you are eligible to receive the vaccine. That provides a nice segue for vaccine. Vaccine availability in the county is not great. The county started off in this process getting a grand total of approximately 975 vaccine doses per week. And that has been ramped up. And this week, the county received 4,400 doses, but spread out across the 900,000 residents of the county. That's still not a lot of doses. I received some very good news from in a phone call just this afternoon from the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Health, Human Services, and Education, George Askew. And he said that the county would be receiving 1,800 more on top of that 4,400. So that's a almost 50% increase in the number of vaccines. I have been advocating to the governor's office to allocate more vaccines to the county. And I think that I hope that my voice added a little bit at least to the decision to grant us some more. 1,400 of those were actually of the vaccine that was just approved on Sunday, the so-called Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which if stories are correct, will be available this week. And that brings up the issue of vaccine choice. I talked to a lot of people about vaccination, encouraging them to take it. And they always, many people ask me, which type of vaccine should I get? Should I get the Moderna? Should I get the Pfizer? Should I get the Johnson & Johnson? Which one is the best? And my answer to everyone, and my answer when I was offered the vaccine, is you take whatever is offered. That all of the vaccines are highly effective. These new variants are a bit of an unknown, but even with the variants in place, then there have been, among those who have completed the course of the vaccine, which is to say, for the 2-dose vaccines, you've taken dose 1, you've taken dose 2, and you've waited 2 weeks after dose 2, then there have been exactly 0 serious cases, like 0 hospitalizations, 0 serious cases, 0 deaths amongst those who have been vaccinated. Out of the tens and hundreds of thousands, those that have completed the vaccination for any of the vaccines that are available at this time have been 0 hospitalizations, 0 serious illness, 0 death. So encourage everyone, when you are offered the vaccine, when your turn comes around, and the supply will be ramping up over the weeks ahead, please take whatever vaccine is offered. And the one other thing, we have been highly constrained by quantity of available vaccine in the county for many weeks, is that the county does have plans in place for when the supply gets better, and they have fielded and have even on vaccinating people using a county mobile unit. And if we have ideas of a place that the county mobile unit could provide vaccinations in town, they're very interested in taking advantage of our knowledge of our residents and who might be happy to receive a vaccine. So all members of the council, I hope you keep that in mind. And I look forward as we continue fighting this terrible virus and working with all of you to make the town survive it as well as we can. Okay, that was most of my report. There is one.
You are unmuted.
There's one item that Mr. Town Manager, you have your microphone on echoing?
Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, and that is that today is International Women's Day. And we are supposed to celebrate the accomplishments of women. And so I wanted to recognize the many women who are present here this evening and celebrate your accomplishments. So the Director of Administration, Jessica Barnes, Director of Public Projects and Services, Ivy Lewis, Council members Marcia Dixon, Colleen Richardson, and Hala Myers. Thank you for everything you bring to the table. Thank you for everything that you do for us, and have a happy International Women's Day. With that, I conclude my remarks.
You are unmuted.
So the next item, yes.
Yes. Oh, I just wanted to, unfortunately, I don't have video, so I was just going to begin my report, if that's okay.
Please do.
Please do. I'll be brief this evening in my comments. Just a few things. One, as the mayor mentioned, it's International Women's Day, and it's also Women's Month. And this year, staff are working with a volunteer resident. And the resident had this idea of working in the community and coming up with bios of women in the community, and then publishing bios of the things that they have done in the community and in their lives. And so that's just another little effort to recognize the accomplishments of women in our community. The other thing, a brief reminder that State of the Town is 2 weeks from tonight, and the staff team is busy working on finalizing that. The last thing I have is the public service announcement reference the increase in violent crime is complete, and we would like to show both versions of that video this evening. So the total run time is slightly under 5 minutes.
Please do show the video.
Ryan, if you would, please.
Yes, I'm getting it ready right now. Thank you. Make sure. Share, and then share sound. And please stop me if nobody can hear it.
The number of violent crimes across the state, county, and here in our community are increasing. We, your neighbors, and members of the Riverdale Park Chiefs Community Advisory Council urge you to join us in working to prevent crime in Riverdale Park. Here are 5 things that you can do to improve your safety and the safety of our town.
If you see something, say something. No matter how small it may seem, contact the Riverdale Park Police at 301-927-4343, day or night, to report any activity that seems suspicious. If you are a victim of a crime, no matter how minor it may seem, report it.
In case of an emergency, call 911. We'd rather be safe than sorry.
Be aware of your surroundings. Poorly lit areas with minimal foot or vehicle traffic are favored location for crimes of opportunity. Avoid such areas and minimize distraction. Always, always trust your gut. If the situation doesn't feel right, get away as quickly as possible.
Have an exit plan in mind. Threats can seem to come out of nowhere, so it is important to think of what you would do to escape a potential threat. When you are in your vehicle, keep your doors locked and your windows rolled up. When you are stopped at a stop sign or a traffic light, make sure you have room in front of you to maneuver and escape if necessary.
Cooperate. If you are the victim of a robbery or carjacking, cooperate with the suspect. Do not resist. Give them what they want and don't argue. If you can, make a mental note of the suspect's description and their vehicle's description if they have one. Get away from the area quickly and call 911 as soon as possible. Your safety and your life are far more important than property. Together, we will keep Riverdale Park a safe community.
And
You are unmuted.
And we have the same message in Spanish. And Ryan, if you will play that video.
Absolutely. One moment. Oh, stop. Share. Share sound. Okay.
El número de crímenes violentos a través del Estado, el condado y aquí en nuestra comunidad se han incrementado. Nosotros, sus vecinos y miembros del Consejo Consultivo del Departamento de Policía de Riverdale Park, les exhorta a que se unan con nosotros a trabajar para prevenir el crimen en Riverdale Park. Hay 4 cosas que usted puede hacer para mejorar su seguridad y la seguridad de nuestra ciudad. Número 1, si usted mira algo, diga algo. No importa qué tan insignificante se vea, sea de día o de noche, contacte al Departamento de Policía de Riverdale Park al 301-927-4343 para reportar cualquier actividad que parezca sospechosa. Si usted es víctima de un crimen, no importa lo menor que parezca, repórtelo. En una emergencia llame siempre al 911. No dude, es mejor estar seguro que lamentarlo. Número 2. Esté consciente de lo que hay a su alrededor. En áreas que carecen de iluminación o un mínimo de transeúntes o tráfico vehicular, son favorables para las oportunidades de un crimen. Evite tales áreas y reduzca sus distracciones. Siempre confíe en su instinto de supervivencia. Si la situación siente que no es segura, aléjese lo más pronto posible. Número 3. Tenga una ruta de escape en mente. Los peligros pueden venir de cualquier parte. Por eso es importante que piense qué puede hacer para escapar de un potencial peligro. Cuando se encuentre dentro de su vehículo, mantenga sus puertas con llave y sus ventanas arriba. Cuando se haya detenido en una señal de alto o una luz, asegúrese que tiene espacio para poderse escapar y maniobrar si es necesario. Número 4. Coopere. Si usted es víctima de un robo o si su vehículo es robado de manera violenta, coopere con el sospechoso. No se resista. Dele lo que quieren y no discuta. Si puede, grabe mentalmente la descripción del sospechoso y la del vehículo usado para cometer el crimen, si hubiese alguno. Aléjese del lugar lo más pronto que pueda y llame al 911, tan pronto como le sea posible. Su seguridad y su vida son más importantes que su propiedad. Juntos mantendremos Riverdale Park una comunidad segura.
That was great.
You are
That was
unmuted.
really good.
The staff team really appreciate the involvement of our residents in putting this together. And special thanks to Marcellus, who normally handles the videography for mayor and council meetings. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll conclude my report.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Are there any questions for the Town Manager?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, not so much a question, but just an appreciation to the town manager and staff for putting this together in really just over 2 weeks. Script to shot, and it's really, with everything else going on, it's really a great effort and much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Couldn't agree more. It was a great production. Any other questions or comments for the Town Manager?
Mr. Mayor, one more follow-up. I take it there will be numerous links to this that folks will be able to have ready access to it.
You are unmuted.
Yes, sir. And actually, we're going to have one minor tweak made to the logo in the upper right-hand corner, and then this will be sent out far and wide through all the town's social media platforms and our website, and we'll be asking others to share it as well.
Very good. Okay. Any public comments or questions? I see that Leo Dorsey in the chat wrote, "Great PSA, thank you." Just for the record. A couple of comments from council members in there too. Okay, given no more questions or comments on the town manager's report, let's move ahead to the monthly finance report. Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir. I will not go into a lot of detail on this because we just finished going over the expenses, but for January FY 2021, we have revenue at $1,202,000, and we have expenses of $558,000 for a net of $644,833. Overall, for the year to date, we have $7,166,000 for revenue, $4,248,000 for expenses, for overall performance of $2,918,000. And that concludes the finance for this month, for January.
You are
Thank you.
unmuted.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Town Manager, do you have a comment?
Paul, do you have the February numbers or not, since it just ended?
I do have February.
If you could report on the February expense and revenue subject to audit.
Okay. And then again, since February just concluded, these numbers are probably not complete, but for revenue for February, we have $389,000. For expenses, we have $443,000. So net deficit of $54,419.
Thank you for that quick turnaround.
Thank you.
Wow.
Any questions for Mr. Smith on the finance report?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Mr. Smith, I know, outside of the report you gave earlier, and the things that you did bring up, are there any other categories which should be to our attention regarding their burn rate at this point in the year?
No, I don't think so. I think in some cases, there may be a few departments that may have gone over in, like, let's say supplies, but in other things they may have gone under. So at this point, I don't see anything that's bringing a major concern.
Okay. You don't see anything that's on a trajectory that's giving you concern?
Not at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional council questions or comments on the finance report? Any public comments? Okay, is there a motion to adopt the finance report subject to audit?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the finance report subject to audit.
Seconded.
Motion has been made by Councilman Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Foe to adopt the monthly finance report subject to audit. Is there any discussion of this motion?
Briefly again, Mr. Mayor, a heartfelt appreciation to Mr. Smith for turning around February so quickly.
There'll probably be an update at some point, but it's we do appreciate the hard work. I'm sure he was punching buttons as fast as he could all day today.
Pretty darned good.
Okay, any additional comments or questions on the motion for the to adopt the monthly finance report subject to audit? Okay, I will do a roll call vote. All those in favor of the motion, Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Henry. Councilmember Henry, you're muted, *6 to unmute. I'll skip ahead to Councilmember Mayers, Councilmember Richardson.
She's gone to work.
Okay, Councilmember Mayers.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Henry, can you unmute to vote? Perhaps he had to step away for a moment. Okay, I will accept that as an abstention since he wasn't there to respond. And I will abstain. So the motion passes 4-0-2. Okay, next item on the agenda is a correspondence summary. There was a single letter alerting us that the veto on the Mark bill had been overridden. Next item on the agenda is the fire department report. And it doesn't look like the chief is here, so we will skip over that. Mr. Town Manager, did you receive a report from the fire department? I did not.
We did not, sir.
Okay. That brings us to council, committee, and ward reports. Start with Councilmember Dixon, Ward 1.
Mr. Mayor, I do not have a report this month.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Foe, Ward 2.
Good evening, everybody. Mr. Mayor, thank you for the beautiful comments on International Women's Day and month. I would be remiss not to say thank you and to a show of graciousness to all the women in my life, but particularly the women that we are on this meeting with tonight. You ladies are incredible, and our town would not move forward if it wasn't for you. So thank you so much for everything that you bring to this town. You can find the majority of my comments in my crier entry this month. And I just want to summarize some of the points that I made. We've discussed in great detail recent violence in Riverdale Park, and I just want to commend the response of staff and council over the past 2 weeks, moving forward with some ideas to assist our areas in our community in need. I was tremendously impacted in my ability to communicate with other council members and staff members and to see almost immediate action. It is truly remarkable sometimes to watch government in action. I tell my students, I tell people that are frustrated with, government at its highest levels, look to local government and you will find what it is you are looking for. State of the parks. During the pandemic, Mara and I have had an incredible opportunity to walk around Riverdale Park, and it's truly been fantastic. And one of the things that you can take in is our incredible park space, whether it's Riverdale Park. It's funny that we have a park named Riverdale Park in Ward 1, Riverdale Recreation Area, and Riverside Drive Park, which goes across multiple wards. We have incredible space. But if you would go to these parks, you oftentimes would think that Riverdale Park is the baseball capital of Maryland. It's really not utilized in a way that benefits our residents to the best of their abilities. And I really would like this to be a start of something. I know we've written letters on multiple occasions looking to add amenities. And I know that during a pandemic, there is not a significant amount of funds to go around for improvement in these parks, but I believe in the power of a collective voice. So I think that as a community, we need to look at these incredible spaces. We need to look at our proximity to the University of Maryland, to the 2 stops on the Purple Line, and recognize that we have some momentum in trying to create some changes in our park. We have 11 baseball fields and like 3 basketball courts. This is Prince George's County. That's unacceptable. And I'm not even talking about other things, other recreational opportunities that exist outside of basketball. I really think that we need to start a dialogue about what is it that we want to see in our parks. I just put a few things, futsal courts, soccer fields, bocce, pickleball courts. How about, I know Councilman Lingua will like this one, functioning restrooms, pollinator gardens, use of our green space to actually have input into these parks that literally are within our short walks. I just think this is a high yield opportunity for the town of Riverdale Park to put a stamp in a park system that is meant to bring other people in. But I think we need to push to allow it to have amenities that we can bring ourselves to and utilize. I'll move on from that point. Lafayette Underpass project. I don't know, and Mr. Charlton, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know that we have a date yet for the virtual charrette with the Neighborhood Design Center. But I really think that this serves as an incredible entrance point to our community. And it really could be utilized in multiple different ways to draw right now, if you look on it, it's an eyesore. There is dirt issues, there is water issues. It is not welcoming at all, but with just a little bit of creativity, I think we can utilize this space as a welcoming point into our town center, this area that we always talk about development in. So I would like everybody to pay attention. I got one email today from a Ward 1 resident who is interested in participating in this dialogue. And I am looking for more people to be willing to participate in this charrette, because when we bring our voice together, that's, again, we collectively become louder. And then last but not least for today, I was lucky enough with the mayor to attend the unveiling of a new mural in our town. 250 Texas Barbecue had a mural painted by Ward 3 resident Tanglewood Sue outside of the old Dumb's grocer, I guess it was. I don't know what it used to be. It's a beautiful space, and it is a beautiful, colorful mural that brings flowers together from Maryland, from Washington, D.C., from El Salvador. And to me, it's just a vibe.
And Texas.
And Texas. I can't listen. I tried to mess with Texas there and I failed. And it brings together all of these beautiful colors and cultures. And to me, it represents the vibrancy of this community that we live in. We are diverse. And it's people like Debbie and Fernando at 250 Texas Barbecue and Tanglewood Sue that are helping us celebrate our diversity with this beautiful art. So if you haven't been over there to see it, please do so and allow that to allow your creative juices to get flowing, and imagine how we could utilize color to change the appearance of this town. With that, I yield my time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Foe. Councilmember Lingua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone in Zoom land who are zooming in tonight. And I just want to thank my colleague from Ward 2 for saying the 3 words I just love to hear and brings me a certain amount of pride. Ward 3 resident, be it murals, be it PFAs, Ward 3 residents. CCAR CDC will be meeting tomorrow evening via Zoom, 5:30 to 7:30. I'll pass that information on to staff so that they can post it to areas where folks can readily access it should they be interested. Good news from last week on the 24th of February. This is from the Executive Director, Patricia Parker, regarding the Sarvis Cafe. She looked forward and let them know that the item that CCAR had before the Board of Public Works, that is to approve the issuance of grant agreements from CCAR's bonds, was approved in the Board of Public Works action agenda, which means that CCAR can now complete the development of the Sarvis Empowerment Cafe. This has been a very long time in coming. There have been steps forwards, some steps backwards, sometimes just waiting to take steps. And we are now at a point that things can move forward and move forward towards completion. And I want to echo the sentiments of the board in their appreciation to Patricia for her patience and her persistence with this project and seeing it through and staying on top of it and helping bring it to recognition, realization, pardon me. On Saturday, CCAR hosted an event at the Starbucks in Capitol Plaza from 10 a.m. to noon, and this was it was hosting an event for the tree program. It was to let folks know about the Go Green Plant Trees program that CCAR has every year. and two CCAR staff members were there, and they're distributing the tree request flyers during those 2 hours, be it to folks who are making in-store purchases as well as anyone coming up through the drive. And again, for folks, this isn't just for outside of the municipal 20737 area. It's also for folks in town. You're looking to plant a tree this coming spring, a free tree, mind you now. Please contact CCAR CDC, and they can get you set up and start having someone coming out and talking to you about trees in your yard. And again, these trees that are in the yards, not in the public right of way, but if you have something that you wanted to plant on your property, CCAR is the people to see. And with that, Mayor, I will conclude my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Lingua. Councilmember Henry, Ward 4. Councilmember Henry, you are showing as being on mute. Maybe you can hit *6 on your phone. I believe you're calling in. You're now showing as unmute.
Passing a report. Go ahead.
You have no report?
I have no report. Just thanks for the services and the times provided.
Thank you. Councilmember Mayers, Ward 6.
Good evening, Mayor Council. I have no ward report at this time.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, excuse me, are public comments on non-agenda items or consent agenda items. Are there any public comments? Hearing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. There are 3 items, all minutes. On the agenda, February 1st, 2021 public hearing, February 1st, 2021 legislative meeting, and the May 5th, 2020 legislative meeting. May I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Foe, seconded by Dixon. We did not discuss the consent agenda items by our rules, so I'll do an immediate roll call vote. Councilmember Dixon. You're muted, Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Henry. Councilmember Henry, do you want to vote?
Absolutely. Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Mayers.
Aye.
Thank you. I abstain. The motion passes 5-0-1. That brings us to legislative action items. First item is a motion to adopt Ordinance 2021-OR-02 regarding 2021 election procedures. May I have such a motion? Is there a motion to adopt 2021-OR-02?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make the motion to adopt Ordinance 2021-OR-02 regarding election procedures.
Thank you, Councilman Lingua. Is there a second to the motion?
Seconded.
Motion made by Councilman Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Foe. Councilmember Lingua, would you like to discuss the ordinance?
Briefly, sir, there's been a request from staff that the mayor and the council essentially address election procedures at this meeting, as elections are town elections. Conduct of them is addressed in Article 5 of the town charter, which there was a revision done, I think it's 2018, to address voting, as well as, and I think the prior revision before that was back around the mid-90s. Also, chapter, I think it was chapter 29 of the town code, again, as well as the election manual revision done, or no, the election manual was created, I think it was mid-90s. But it's things that go back a long way, but it's been discussed due to, really for the past several months, due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Is really a proactive step to really have in place guidelines, procedures, protocols that allows the elections that we're going to have in May of 2021 to be conducted safely, as well as securely. Things that we're going to be addressing is absentee and mail-in voting, ballot drop box type voting, as well as in-person voting. Just to name a few.
Thank you, council member. Is there council discussion of this motion to adopt ordinance 2021-OR-02? Are there public comments? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Dixon?
Aye.
Councilmember Foe?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Henry?
Aye.
Councilmember Mayers?
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0-1. Next item on the agenda, legislative action item 2, motion to adopt ordinance 2021-OR-03 regarding budget amendment to reflect the CARES Act funding. May I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor. Do you? All right, I'll go. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to motion to pass ordinance 2021-OR-03 to amend the FY 2021 approved budget.
Second.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2021-OR-03 made by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember Lingua. Is there a discussion of this ordinance?
Sure. To document CARES Act recovery, or to document CARES Act revenue received and allocation of funds to continue funding of the Partners in Economic Recovery programs through the balance of fiscal year 2021.
Yes, so we received the CARES Act funding. We were not sure until early January whether that was going to happen, maybe mid-January. And so we have to amend the budget to reflect the additional revenues, unexpected revenues, and expenditures as part of that program. Is there additional council discussion?
Mr. Mayor, other than essentially the amendments documenting the allocation of $159,592.18 CARES Act grant, and this is being allocated to the to the Economic Development Fund, and as well it's documenting the expenditure of $254,116 and 70 cents from the Economic Development Fund through the balance of FY 2021. And it's also documenting the reimbursement of $440,665.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Okay, any other council or public discussion of this motion? Hearing none, I will do a roll call vote. Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Henry.
Aye.
Councilmember Mayers.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 501. Thank you all. Next item on the agenda is a motion to adopt Ordinance 2021-OR-04 regarding improving neighborhood safety. This is another budget amendment. May I please have a motion?
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I'm waiting for a motion.
I heard Councilman Lingua speaking. I felt like he was going
Well,
ahead.
I was gonna let you know, if someone wanted to make a motion to do so. I've made a number of them already, and I just don't want
to. I will go ahead.
Let's just share, you know.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to motion for the adoption of Ordinance 2021-OR-04 regarding improving neighborhood safety. And this would be another budget amendment.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember Dixon. Is there discussion of this ordinance in this motion?
This is for the purpose of amending the adopted capital budget for the town of Riverdale Park for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2021 to increase transfer from the general fund to the capital improvement project fund and to increase capital improvement project expenses by a corresponding amount. And I believe that this expenditure is for the increase of neighborhood safety cameras and improved street lighting that in areas that have recently been targets of significant violence within the borders of Riverdale Park.
Thank you, Councilmember. Are there additional council comments on this ordinance?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Please do, Councilman.
This is a, looking over section 1 on this, that we're looking at general fund reserve transfers, and we're increasing general fund reserve, the CIP from 248,825 to 403,825. As a substantial amount of money going towards this effort, the difference that is, and I think it's going to be well worth it over time, and it's going to really make a considerable impact on the quality of life for the better over in parts of Ward 6. And I appreciate staff working through the numbers and identifying that something bring it to fruition.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there additional council comments on this ordinance?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, question for the TM on this matter of regard.
Please go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you. TM, as a matter of questioning here, the lights improvement here, would it be for just the major throughway of the town, or will it also include the neighborhood's lighting in the local streets as well too. Over.
You are unmuted.
Thank you very much for that question, sir. The focus of this project is the neighborhood east of the Anacostia and south of 410. That's the area where the 2 homicides so far this year occurred. And the first tranche of money will be used for design work. And so we'll be working with the town's engineer on identifying what streets, both more main streets, if you will, and then areas a little bit out of the way in the neighborhood there that are dark or not lit as well as we would like.
Okay, thank you for that. Over.
Excuse me, I was muted. Are there additional council or public comments on this this ordinance? I will just say that I'm very pleased that we have for many years maintained a significant reserve fund so that we are able to respond to emergency situations such as this and create programs quickly. I can tell you from talking to mayors around the county that this is unusual, that something like this might have to wait for the next fiscal year in order to find funding to do it. And I'm very pleased that we have the financial flexibility to do this as a result of the council's care at managing the finances of the town for the many past years. And I'm very pleased that we are doing something to address this issue. I know that this project has been planned for many years, and I'm very glad that we're accelerating it quickly to bring a better quality of life to the residents of these areas. Any additional council or public comments? Okay, I will do a roll call vote. Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Henry.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Mayers.
Aye.
Thank you. I abstain. The motion passes 501. Last item on the agenda, legislative action items, I think. Yes. Is a motion to send a letter of support for House Bill 0626, Prince George's County, Vehicle Height Monitoring Systems, also known as PG 305-21. May I please have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Foe. This piece of legislation was something I discussed with Delegate Williams from our district as early as last summer, I believe, maybe even last spring, late last spring, to allow us to have an additional form of automated enforcement, which was basically cameras to enforce our no through trucks laws. So this is legislation that had a law that had previously a very limited area where it could be used, which is a section of Baltimore. And I talked to Delegate Williams, and she was very happy to sponsor this. And it is making quite good progress through the legislature, and has gotten the endorsement of the Prince George's County Council. And I'm hopeful that we might actually see this enacted into law. So there's an important hearing on Thursday afternoon at 1:30 p.m. and we need to submit our testimony by 1:30 p.m. tomorrow. And so I hope that the council will vote to approve the letter that has been placed in the packets supporting this legislation. Are there any questions or comments from other members of the council?
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Please, council member.
I appreciate the effort on this by both yourself, with delegate, as well as staff, in putting together this letter supporting the House Bill 626. I think it's something that can make a very positive impact in town. Something that in its own way will help us along in our effort that we have set forward in the Walk, Bike, Drive initiative. One thing, if a large vehicle is coming through because it has a specific business in town, be it for a resident or a commercial business, I mean, we see the trucks that come through and offload it at Town Center Market and some other places on a weekly basis. It's another when it's just Riverdale Park is in between point A and and hopefully this addresses that. What will be allowed in this House bill will help address it, and I'm fairly confident that it will. Routes along, say, Lafayette, Taylor, any other number of stretches in town. I think this can have a considerable impact.
Thank you, council member. Any additional council or public comments on this legislation? Hearing none, I will do a roll call vote. Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Henry.
No objection, aye.
Councilmember Mayers.
Aye.
Thank you. I abstained. The motion passes 5-0-1. That brings us to the end of our legislative action items. Under new business, there's, I believe, a staff report on donation bin legislation update.
That is correct. I'll be presenting the update on Ordinance 2020 OR-4. A little over 1 year ago, in January of 2020, the town recognized that we had an issue with unattended donation bins and often the unsightly conditions surrounding them due to their proximity to dumpster bins. Often, when neighborhood services would try to reach out to the owner of the property or the owner of the donation bin, they would face many hurdles if they could reach anybody at all. And so we found that it was necessary to begin permitting the donation bins, which is what Ordinance 2020 OR-4 did. Amongst other things, it made sure that the donation bins were put in safe spaces, that they contained, or that they had on the outside of the donation bin contact information for the party responsible. And since the adoption of the ordinance, I'm happy to say that all the donation bins operating within the town are now permitted. The areas surrounding the donation bins are now well maintained, and we have the contact information for the owners of those donation bins. And I've also included here a photo of one of the donation bins, which it was over a year ago, so I don't blame anybody for not remembering, but this looks much better than the photo I showed last year.
I remember the photo very much from last year. It was not nearly so nice as this. I'm glad to see that the legislation has been effective. Thank you. Are there any other items of new business from the council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I received a forwarded email from a Ward 2 resident named Michael Bagley, who had reached out to MNC PPC about seeking some tree plantings along 51st Avenue, the site of the former Boys and Girls Club where we have the food forest. But I think he means more to the north, in between that area and the dog park. And in the email, his request for more tree plantings was rejected by the organization. And I was just seeking council input and staff input. Any look at this space, and you can tell again, it's similar to the parks itself. It's devoid of anything, and it's an incredible opportunity to include our tree canopy or improve our tree canopy. Could help create a buffer between the noise from the park and potentially our residents, which I think would be a good thing. I like the jovial nature of that park. I like the music that is sometimes played, but I also understand the residents' complaints that it gets a little loud at some point. Mr. Mayor and you and I have even talked about trying to add trees to that specific area. I don't know what I'm asking for right now. I think ultimately what I would like is that we send a letter as a unified council requesting some tree plantings in the specific area. But I don't know what you would think, Mr. Mayor, are the next logical steps.
Okay, just to let the council know, I regularly discuss tree plantings in the parks with the town manager, and ways that we might make that move forward more quickly. And the issue that Mr. Bagley brought up in his letter, and I am still waiting to hear back from the staff member about why his request was rejected. But if you go further up the hiker-biker trail that is along the Anacostia there, and you get north just over the border into College Park, I believe it's very near the border, so it may still be in Riverdale Park. Then there are freshly planted small trees. They're nice trees. They're sort of, as the quality of the tree is given by the caliper, so it's sort of a 2-inch caliper tree. It's a nice tree, and some of them aren't even in sight of the freshly planted trees aren't in sight of the hiker-biker trail. And so it's really surprising to me that, they've taken out some old diseased trees that were in the park near where Mr. Bagley wants these to go within recent memory, the last 5 to 7 years. And they've been, knocked down by storms or were threatening to be knocked down by storms and were taken out by the parks. And the fact that they seem to have zero interest in planting trees there, which would be appreciated by nearby residents when they're willing to plant trees further north, that cannot possibly be. And so I understand your frustration and understand that we may want to move forward on this. I will raise the level of the discussion that I'm having with staff, and I will report back to the council at the next meeting as what I hear back from MNC PPC. But I think this is something that we should lean in on and try to influence and get some more trees planted there. So thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you.
Any other items of new business from the council? Any items of unfinished business from the council?
Actually, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I was on mute. I had one item I'd like to bring before the council.
Yes.
To consider.
Please.
This past week, I sent shared a article that I'd read in Governing on bullet train project out in California in the San Joaquin Valley, 65-mile section where what the developer was promising was savings of $300 million. That absolutely fell through, and now the bullet train plan is now going to be costing state an extra $800 million to build. And I share this with Councilmember Blaros because I thought, there's a fairly good probability of a similar scenario should the maglev went ahead. And she agreed with me, and she expressed to me that people need to weigh in, and that it's important to reach out to Congressman Hoyer about our concerns. Move to the Friday District 3 letter that Councilmember Blaros put out, and one of the links she has is about raising voices in opposition to maglev. And I believe right now that the impact, the environmental impact statement is out and out for comment, for review and for comment. The draft environmental impact statement was released, and I believe the closing date to comment on it, deadline for public comments is April 22nd. I feel, and I'd like to hear the sentiment of the council, that this maglev project, while there are things that are of merit to high-speed rail, this project in this area is not something that would serve this area well at all. Actually, would be a detriment when you look at the route where this is going to run through, which also includes, pardon me, areas that are going to, that are going to be impacted considerably so by this. The Patuxent Research Refuge, Beltsville's Agricultural Research Center, and other National Park Service properties. It's my opinion, it's my sentiment, that we as a council draft a letter to Congressman Hoyer, as well as Department of Transportation, in opposition to this project.
Thank you, council member. Are there other council or staff comments on this? You said the deadline for comments is April 25th?
22nd.
22nd, thank you.
Yes.
That does give us some time. So, well, let's get a sense of the council. Is the council in agreement that, or at least willing to give staff direction that we are likely in agreement to want to issue a letter opposing the maglev?
I would probably need to do a little bit more research, but I haven't felt in any way, shape, or form the need to support the maglev project at all. All of the things that I've heard have been negative from the people that I trust in the community. So I have no problems with this moving forward right now.
Okay. Councilmember Dixon, you unmuted yourself, I noticed.
I was gonna actually say the first part, that I just don't know a whole lot about it. I've seen some of the emails come through with like updates, but I would need to apprise myself a little bit more before making a decision one way or the other.
Okay. Councilmember Henry, do you have an opinion?
I do. Am I there? Am I
Yes,
unmuted?
you are unmuted.
Thank you. I'm always willing to support my my council member from the third ward, but I am not educated enough to make a decision whether up or down right now. But I would waver on the side of the of my colleague from the third ward at this point. But I think that I need more time to review the current circumstances. Thanks.
Okay, so perhaps we could ask the staff to present us a pro and con report at the March work session and make a decision at that point as to how to move forward. That would give us plenty of time to still get the letter out. And perhaps we can invite a speaker. I will provide my own comments of what I've picked up from other elected officials in the county, which is that the maglev would go through the county. It would be underground, coming above surface, just north of Greenbelt, in a section of woods that Greenbelt has carefully preserved for the entire existence of the city, and disrupting that. While the maglev is in the county, albeit underground, there would be significant elevator shafts and ventilation shafts going down to the level of it. And I believe one of them is in Colmar Manor. I think another one might well be just the other side of the Baltimore-Washington Parkway from where we are. And the environmental impact statement indicates that there are significant concerns about what will be dug up as they are digging the tunnels for this. And there's very little benefit, if any, for the county, and that as I said, the train would go through. We wouldn't have the opportunity to actually ride it up to Baltimore without going into DC first, and they would have a sizable negative impact on the county. The cities and towns that it goes underneath, both Greenbelt, Edmonston, Colmar Manor, Cottage City are all vehemently in opposition to this project. So I will just pass that on. Town Manager, Mr. Town Manager, I noticed that you had unmuted temporarily before I started speaking, and so do you have would like to weigh in?
Just that the staff team can put the report together. So we'll have something for you at the work session.
Okay. Councilmember Mayers, do you have an opinion that you'd like to express?
Not at this time. I need some more information.
Okay. So Councilmember Lingua, is that an acceptable course of action to have staff present a report to us at the work session in 3 weeks?
Yes, I just hope this isn't encroaching on any bandwidth that they would be having, being that they're also working to put together the budget for us during this time. I will ask of my colleagues on the council. I'm getting ready to send something over to staff that then's going to get forwarded on, some links that Councilmember Galeros has provided regarding the draft environmental impact statement and a number of other resources to help them along in their research. Because 4 weeks is going to come really quickly, and I think this is something we really want to be on top of ahead of the reports the staff is going to be putting together. This is a very substantial project that is going to substantially impact this county should it go through. And I think what Councilmember Galeros has put together as part of her newsletter as links to look at illustrates that. And I think we all need to be very aware of this and consider a position on this and weigh in on it, because it is, as I said, it's just going to be substantial for the entire county.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember. I've been reading a lot of the material as it comes through my email box. So I'll be happy to read anything you forward on. Okay, are there any other items of new business? Are there any items of unfinished business? Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
I heard Councilmember Mayers, I believe, so I'm going to give her the second.
You did.
This is not a debatable motion, so I will do a roll call vote immediately. Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Henry.
Aye.
Councilmember Mayers.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0-1. We are adjourned at 9:02 p.m. Not bad.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Many
Thank you
thanks.
all
Have
Good
a
night.